Welcome to this Mastery Empowerment course from New Earth One Network. This is designed exclusively for your higher self connection and embodiment. Welcome to this Mastery Empowerment course. This is Ecstatic Body, Light Body. And my guest today is here to share with us how we can activate it, what happens when it is activated, and truly what ecstasy in the body means. Allison Holley is here. She's our teacher today, and we're so excited to be here talking about this subject because, Allison, as you were saying, this is something that you're witnessing your clients bringing online. So welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. And I'm really grateful to be able to have a space to talk about this. This is something that I see so many people really needing guidance on, and especially in the spiritual communities, not quite knowing where to turn. So I'm really grateful that I get to be here with you.
I think it's a topic that is right on time because we have just passed through 2022. And what I've witnessed as well, we can talk about this. What I've witnessed is women, not just women, but there has been an activation of goddess energy.
Ooh.
I've seen, it started last February, the 2/2 and the 2/22 of 2022 were really powerful gateways. I'm getting chills as I speak right now because this is changing people's lives. Priorities change, but you've got an explanation for this. So as the goddess activates, we can certainly feel this in our body. I've heard from people who are like, what are these energies in my body? It feels almost like a sexual energy in the body. And so this is what we're talking about. What's going on here?
I love that question. I love that whole introduction. And I want to go just a little bit off my original topic and share with you. So I am a channel. That's a huge purpose of mine. And I bring through new information and energies to assist with this global awakening and the joining of the cosmic and the earth, right? And a few weeks ago, I had this beautiful channeling. It relates to this goddess energy that you're talking about, because the way that I see it is we're all stepping into the realm of the gods, right? So those who have done that preparatory work and who have opened the channels and awakened themselves to a specific point, we're now stepping into the realm of gods. Gods are creators. Gods are conscious creators. And so this channeling that I had was of several partnerships that I'm seeing in my personal world. And it was sort of what I'm guessing is happening throughout for a lot of people. And I saw the central sun. I didn't know that's what it was. This isn't something that I channel regularly. I saw the central sun and I saw several beings in the feminine, holding the feminine energies, who were inside the central sun and holding a very specific frequency and calling in the God energy, leading the God energy then into the central sun. So there was this powerful, this activation that then, that the goddess energy is holding, that then with all of these very practical beings who have been holding the masculine in our world and doing beautiful things with it, needed to have an energy that was then guiding them into the next step. What I've been shown is this is the 6th-dimensional realm of consciousness, right? So we're moving into the realms of pure play. And I just finished, it is now in editing mode. Potentially could be published by the time this airs, my book, Ecstatic Playground. And it's all about those of us who are ready moving into that God consciousness and playing on this earth in ecstasy. So it was a very beautiful visual that I got, and it really matches what you're saying about people being activated into this goddess energy. Really, the way that I see it is we are all, those of us who have really been prepared for this are now stepping into that realm of the gods where we can play on a new level.
So is this happening if people are not preparing for it? Would they be somehow maybe, and so maybe that's some of the questions that come up. They're like, wow, what am I feeling here? So I guess another question would be, how would one prepare for it? And if they're not prepared for it, could it happen to them without them really understanding what's going on?
Yes. So let me just feel into that. I like to be really present. So if people are, the preparation is on an energetic level. And a lot of times our minds miss that. And that can be a really good thing if our minds are missing it and not diagnosing it. So this preparation is really energetic. We could be experiencing it and not knowing what it's called. And a lot of the ways, that visualization that I got in my channeling is sort of that, right? We've got this God energy, more of the masculine, those beings who are, my ears ringing really intensely, those beings who are holding the masculine energies are a little less conscious of what's happening because they've been holding a space with within certain realms here, really leading people into heaven, and so now we're moving almost, I don't want to be too linear about it, but we are moving beyond the realms of heaven, 5th-dimensional consciousness. Now we're moving into 6th-dimensional consciousness. So it takes, it almost takes some unconsciousness around it to be able to move into it. It's not something that we're necessarily doing with the mind. This is why I like to lead people into the body, because the body has such an earth consciousness and a holistic consciousness to it that it can guide us into these realms. And if people are feeling the call to this, a call is an activation. Anything that we desire is an activation into the truth of who we are. And that's part of what I'll be talking about today. Our desires are leading us to our blueprint. Our blueprint is who we are and who we're meant to be in this particular physical incarnation. So we all have this beautiful template that we're working with, and every desire that we have is guiding us more and more into our template. And so if somebody's feeling a call, like, ooh, that sounds really interesting, then this is for you. Then you're ready, right? On some level, you're ready. Anytime you have a desire arise, that's an activation.
That is beautiful. I get that. All right.
Yeah.
So that is our roadmap. So when we're talking ecstatic body and light body, how does this goddess energy affect the light body? And when we feel it in our body, you said it was almost like sexual energy. What are we to do with that? Do we go to a partner? Do we do this on our own? How do we navigate that?
It's a really beautiful question. I'm going to dive all in. So my first experience with this ecstatic energy, actually, this was my second experience. And I was in Peru, and I remember this ecstatic energy coming over me, and it felt very sexual. And at the time, I was talking to my guidance team, and I was saying, yeah, I was hearing, this is what you're all moving into. This is the new way that your body is going to feel as we move forward. This is our evolution. And I said, how are we going to carry this? It felt, if I really look at it, it almost felt awkward because I was really, really turned on. And it was not sexual in the way that our society tends to look at sex, right? It wasn't centered in the genitals. It wasn't based on something that was happening externally, which is those things we tend to think of as sexual, right? It was my whole body being illuminated, my channels being open, and I was in so much joy and so much pleasure in my body. And yes, that does feel sexual. Our bodies are sexual bodies. That's something that in times past, we've decided, to be spiritual, we separate from the body, we deny the body. We are now in a completely new understanding and realm where this is why our light bodies are being activated, because we're taking our bodies with us. We are bringing the physical into these higher frequency states. In order for that to happen, the light body needs to be activated. So I know I'm a little bit all over the place because I just have so much about this. Feel free to interject if I get a little confusing. So our light body is the completion of our physical body and our auric body with crystalline activation, right? So our light body is now becoming a complete system. In the future, we won't measure the body in terms of the physical, will really look like an egg. That's how we'll see the human body. We'll say, okay, it's the completeness of your energy and your physical body. There's less of a barrier. And we can understand this, right? When we move up in frequency, we start to see energy, we start to sense and feel it in a new way. So our physical bodies, we will start to see that, yes, it is physical in our aura, it's just a different density of physicality. So we'll start to see the human body as the fullness of that. When our light body is activated, the channels within that full complete system are open, or they're opening, right? We feel it as they're opening. We don't just feel it when it's fully, completely open. We're right now, what many people are experiencing are those channels opening. So we think of chakras, and we might think of the main chakras through the center of the body. And then those people who understand acupuncture and things like that know that there are chakras throughout the whole body. And if you understand, different sacred sexual practices, there are chakra points internal in the body as well that can be activated through sexual practices. Now, what I want to introduce, and many people may know this, we have chakra points in our auric field as well. The whole system is like this beautiful web with chakra points at all the intersections. When we open those chakra points, the energy can flow through. And that is how I have, on a very literal sense, seen the light body activations. Now, when we look at this in a physical way, when we are open, when our energy is open, when we don't have those blocked areas, we feel really good. So when our light body, when all of these channels are open, we feel really good. And when the body feels good, pleasure is registered in a sexual way in the body. So this is how it all kind of intertwines. When I talk about the ecstatic body, what I'm talking about is the body in its ecstatic state. There is a vibration of light that is passing through the body that feels immensely pleasurable. And it feels even orgasmic. It feels very intense. However, when people feel this energy and then the mind gets involved and says, whoa, this is too much. This feels awkward. This isn't what's okay in society. We tend to shut it down, right? Our natural state is ecstasy. And we have trained ourselves to operate in society in blocked ways. So when we unblock that, it can feel a little awkward. How do we move through the world? How do we move through existence with this ecstasy running through us? So I know I've gone a lot of different directions, but essentially what I see my role is one, helping people open these channels, and then helping them navigate through the world with these channels open, helping them understand all of the, it comes with physical changes, right? Because we've got physical meeting energetic, those lines are blurred now. We start to see it all intertwined. And so how do we move through the world with this heightened energy, with authenticity, with integrity, and all of those things? Because when it's blocked, our energy is like this fire hose that's just, we're running so much light. And if we block it, then it shoots out in unconscious ways, right? We can imagine this fire hose of energy. We try and cap it off, it's going to shoot out the sides. And that's where we get that out of alignment, out of integrity ways of operating with our sexual energy. So
Yes.
things there, but
No, it's really beautiful. It's really brilliant. And so, okay, as we open the channels, first of all, what you're saying is that it's the mental, it seems like, last year we were saying, it seems like our head is at war with our heart. And that's really what's going on here. When we're in our heart and maybe we tune into this feeling, we can sense that everything's okay, right? But the mind comes in with societal programmings. You shouldn't do that. You have a vow, or things like this.
Yes.
So it's the mind and our mental, maybe the egoic mind, that starts to block us and block this energy and shut it down. But that energy is still there. So the negative ways, what would be some of the ways that we misuse it would be feeling bad about ourselves.
Absolutely.
Judging ourselves.
Shame is one of the big blockers. And, I know we'll talk about it a little bit later, but in my course, Ecstasy, that's one of the big topics that we covered. How do we move through shame? Because, shame is really this thing that it's sort of insidious, right? It's like we feel something and then shame comes on top of it, and shame says, oh, I want to hide. So then we build more shame and we do more unconscious actions. And how do we end that cycle? So that's a big one. The unconscious things that people do are looking to get this energy met. It is a natural energy, even when we're not in our light body. Our sexual energy and our spirituality, this was my story, right? This is one of the reasons that I'm teaching this right now, is that when I started going through my awakening, I started to then fuse together and begin to understand the sexual and the spiritual. But before that, they were in very different polarized places within me. I could either be spiritual and deny the sexual, or I could be sexual and deny the spiritual. And I really went back and forth for a long time. And being able to bring those together really is about allowing ourselves to be conscious. So here's something that's going to help. I briefly mentioned it at the beginning. Our desires are actually signs that our template, our blueprint, is being activated. And so just knowing that anything that we desire is leading us to something that is for us. We do not have desires that are not built into us. We don't all desire the same thing, right? So all of our desires are taking us on that pathway to who we are meant to be. Now, a lot of times, if we've denied our desires for a very long time, and most people have, I will say this has nothing to do with how amazing or spiritual you are. We are all trained to deny our desires. I call this potty training, right? we're born as these beautiful ecstatic beings, or at least we come in, right? Some people have some even womb trauma. That was me as well. So we are incarnated. We begin our process as these bodies of light, these beautiful ecstatic beings. And somewhere along the way, it is inevitable that we are trained in the ways of society. And the ways of society are not walk around with your light totally illuminated and your joy showing for everyone to see. That's not how we're trained. Just like potty training, right? Just like when we're young and we're trained how to use the bathroom and not use it whenever we want, right? That's part of our human training. And that training can sometimes cause us to unconsciously block ourselves. In fact, most of the time it does. So we're trained into this way of being, and we're trained to deny our very innate desires, whatever those are, any desire, not just sexual. So we've had lifetimes that, possibly multiple lifetimes of training away from our desires. And so when they start to emerge, what people come in contact with is a desire that feels like, oh, I can't do that. And maybe for a good reason. Maybe that desire really isn't the fullness of the truth of who you are, but it's leading you there. And so how can we guide ourselves through this, what feels to be a bit of a minefield? Like, I've got these desires, but how do I get from this place of long-term denial of who I truly am to who I truly am, living in the present moment with those desires? Because when we're present, the desires that emerge are the truth of who we are. It just takes getting there, right? So at first, these desires emerge and we might behave unconsciously because we're trying to get these really held back desires in alignment with our present moment. And so that's also part of the work that I do. I guide people. Here's your initial desire. How can you bring yourself up to speed with who you are now when you've been denying this whole part of you, this whole section of you for a very long time? Not even knowing then who we are. I talk to a lot of people because I'm very somatically based, getting people into the body. I talk to a lot of people who don't know what it feels like in the body to feel pleasure. They know from the mind. And then I say, describe what you're feeling in your body. And they say, yeah, it's sort of like, it's like a car or something like that, And I'm like, well, where is it in your body? I don't know. Because we are so separated from the body. And there really is an idea, even in the spiritual communities, that in order to be a very high vibrating being, you can't be sexual. That's something that it's such a misunderstanding of these beautiful energies that are moving through us and the gift of the physical body and where we're going, what we're evolving into, which is the ecstatic body. And I just briefly, I know I go on these tangents and rants, but I'm very passionate about it. And I just want to briefly mention a bit of the foundation of this, which is early on in my awakening, I was introduced to the concept of pure form consciousness. And my guides told me pure form consciousness is the fullness of what human beings are evolving into. And pure form consciousness involves three pieces. It involves the heart open to giving and receiving love in its divine state. It involves the mind being calm and clear, so the observer mind. And then it involves the body in its ecstatic state. Those three elements are the fullness of what we're moving into. Body, heart, and mind, all in these higher levels of balance and openness.
Then this is wonderful. And it brings to mind, again, what people have been experiencing and what's been coming up in questions from audience members about suddenly feeling things that they've not felt in the body before. Even myself, I've felt things and it was like, what is that? What do we do with this? So then that's the next question. What then do we do with this? How do we open these channels and how do we move that energy along in the body?
Mm. A lot of it is surrendering.
Mm.
A lot of it is the agreement to it. Some of it might just be knowing that this is all holy, right? Imagine all your channels being open. Imagine the light that you share with the world. That's a gift. That's a gift that we're giving each other. And so doing this work to bring ourselves to a place of openness where we are in our light body, where we're so illuminated, we are literally lighting the way for others. It's an energetic way. It's not a physical linear pathway. It is, look at the fullness of who you are by being able to see these illuminated parts of me. Our pleasure is our spiritual practice. So part of what I teach is how to connect to your pleasure, and being able to connect to our pleasure within our own sovereign experience. It's not that we can't share it with others. It's that we really have to do that for ourselves before we can share it with anyone else. Stabilizing these energies, knowing how they move through our bodies, and then we automatically illuminate those around us. This is how all of this works. We're all activating each other all the time. Are we activating each other into our fullness? Are we seeing the God consciousness in each other and holding that as the truth so that we can then, those we interact with can also experience that? It's that quantum jump of, I see you, and then that's Shaktipat, right? Then yes, oh, I see me too. Here I go, right? So part of it is calling in our own activations. Part of it is removing the blockages. Part of it is agreeing to this is a holy path. Our pleasure is our path into the truth of who we are. And a lot of people see, this is why I really love holding this space, because I really trust myself in the integrity that I hold with this space of, pleasure. If we let it be something that our mind gets a hold of, or if we let it be something that stays within specific frequency realms, it feels a bit hedonistic. When I say pleasure is a spiritual practice, that can also be confusing for some people. Oh, I'm just gonna, roll around in bed all day. Awesome, yes. And there are so many ways of experiencing pleasure. In fact, our entire existence can be highly full of pleasure. And we may not know how to do that yet, right? So it's about connecting that really high frequency and continuously being led by that beautiful frequency to opening up and expanding into pleasure in new ways, and doing so within our authenticity, right? So it's there are many layers to it, but I guess to be really concise with it, it's just knowing pleasure is our spiritual practice, and it's our gift. It's our gift to the planet, and we can experience pleasure in everything that we're doing. And allowing it to feel sexual in the body is sometimes one of the ways that we can unblock ourselves from placing these external limitations around what's okay.
Do you find that people that you work with, as this is something that gets activated within them, that itself reveals blockages, maybe ancestral programs, ancestral genes, of maybe prudeness, after spending so many lifetimes being potty trained to shut it down? right? That or societal's vows that we take, like this isn't right, or you're bad, you're a bad person. It just seems like that is something big that would come up for people in this process. So
Yes.
that's the important part of moving through those blockages. And again, the blockages are mentally based.
Yeah.
It's our own understanding of what's going on. So
Mhm.
really, then how would we remove the blockages and then really allow it to move through the body?
Mm. You know, let's just maybe bring it down to the basics. What is shadow work? So,
Shadow work.
shadow work, the way that I see it, if we are, and this is, I had the most incredible channeling around this where I saw that we are light bearers because we draw light from the void, and then we are these beautiful prisms that create, right? So this is all of creation. We're drawing from the void. So we are the light bearers. We are meant to be more and more illuminated. Enlightenment is carrying high levels of light. Okay? So shadow work is anything that we then become aware of as our light shines more and more. This is why people go through dark night of the soul as they are going through an awakening. We don't go through dark night of the soul if we don't have light shining through us. We've got all this light shining through us. And then shadow work is what's standing in the way of that light being able to come through us. It's casting a shadow. It becomes obvious to us. So whatever's casting a shadow between us and our light, being drawn through from source, being drawn through the physical, drawn through and illuminating our experience, that's our shadow work. So each time we go through a big burst of lighting up, more shadow work is revealed, right? It doesn't cast a shadow if we don't have the light on as strongly. I know that doesn't make sense in the physical realm, but if we can imagine that we are the beings being illuminated, then what's coming up initially as I go through my awakening is the first stages of my shadow work. And then I have actually been shown, and it's really important that I share this with people, shadow work ends. It's not something that we're meant to continuously forever and ever, amen, do. It's actually something that we get through shadow work. We reach our 0 point, which is our place of pure presence. If we can be in presence, then we have completed that realm of shadow work. We focus on illuminating. We continuously illuminate. And when we go through another big burst of illumination, we're going to be met with new shadow work. And I will tell you that when we come into the illumination within these higher frequency realms, fifth, sixth dimension, the shadow work is still going to show itself, but it actually feels very different. We might go through another dark night of the soul, but it feels very different. And in fact, I'm remembering last time I was on your show, I had just completed another dark night of the soul, and it was so intense and so hard. But you know what? My channels were so open that it felt like a very different experience. It didn't bring me to my knees. It actually motivated me further into my light body. And as we go through these different layers, we might hit more shadow work. Inevitably, we will, and more dark night of the soul moments, but it's going to feel very different. And in fact, if we've cleansed and opened the channels, it could feel very playful, right? It could feel incredibly, we reach a point where the joy and the pain coexist, and we understand that, and we feel, even in the depths of these heavier experiences, the ecstatic truth of being alive. It's just running through us. So going into that was a little bit of a introduction, like let's lay the foundation for what shadow work is. So as we're going through activating the ecstatic body, yes, we are going to be met with new things that we're like, oh, I didn't even know that was there. And we have a toolkit where we can move through these things. And, we have people, like I love being that person who guides people through the place of, oh, I'm being met with this place that used to block me. This is usually where I stop. This is where, my trajectory. Okay, this is where I start to shut down. And I'm like, no, 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 you're here to be a god. You're here to be a goddess. Let's bring it all the way through. So I would say, how do we move through those places? It is presence, which is surrender, which is allowing ourselves to be in that place of pleasure and knowing that all is right. All is happening as it needs to. And the more that we move to that 0 point of pure presence with ourselves, the more that we're able to move through these just like that. In fact, it feels like, why was that even a thing? It's joyful, you know? And allowing that ecstasy to move through us, and not being afraid of that intensity of pleasure. I would even say that's a big one with a lot of people who I work with, because the people that I work with are also very masterful, and the blockage tends to be less about, sometimes shame comes up, but the shame is more, is it okay for me to now be this ecstatic, illuminated being, where maybe I was born into a situation where my joy wasn't even allowed, where my happiness wasn't even allowed, where that was shut down, where my light, no matter what I did, shining my light bothered people, right? I talk to a lot of people who have that experience. And so now with the energies of the planet, now with what we're all awakening to, now it's not only safe for you to be the fullness of who you are, but it's time. It's time, because we need to be activated so that we can continue to illuminate the planet and each other.
All right. Well, happy activating, everyone. Some of the things that come to mind that help facilitate this for me is
Yes.
dancing, just dancing
Yes.
when no one's watching.
Yes.
Just putting on music and dancing, and even singing. Like if I feel the negative energies or the doubt or shame, I just sing. Or maybe, I don't know, guilt or whatever, any of those feelings might come up, but those help us. And that's what's going on, right? As we live authentically, as we bring our light. Can you talk a little bit more about the light body as you understand it, and what happens there as we move through this process?
Yes. Recently I've had a lot of people. So I'm grateful. My whole life, my mom has always told me, you shine like the sun, right? But recently, a few things, and I'll just speak of my own experience. And I can mention a few of people who have worked with me, the experiences that they've shared as well. So my voice has changed as my channels have opened. My voice is now activated in its light codes. I do glow, yes, and I hear this from a lot of people, and I see it with other people. We speak, and our vocal tonality is very different when our light body is activated. For people who are, that I love that you mentioned singing, because I sing all the time. I love singing. It just feels good. I feel the channels of energy moving through me as I do it. I dance, there's a reason that we have a thing called ecstatic dance. The root of ecstatic dance is having that movement come from within, not being animated by the mind, but being animated by this cosmic force that moves through the body. Recently my guides have told me, this was just in a channeling a few days ago, Allison, pay attention to this force that runs through you, that animates you without you needing to do anything. That is what we're moving into, that fullness of being animated from within, not from, I need to do this and this and this. When we're in our light body, we're channeling. Everything we do is a channeled movement. We're speaking from our place of channeling. We are, it's a very present place, right? We are illuminated with joy. We have light streaming through us. Signs that you're activated into your ecstatic body are channeling, spontaneous movements, which I call kriyas. I know that's not the original definition from the yogic. Uh, I feel through some of the things that I've channeled that the meaning behind the word kriya is spontaneous movements, because that is the most succinct. Spontaneity is actually a very succinct way of moving with the universe. So channeling, speaking light language, having our hands form spontaneous mudras, movement through the body, joy, being illuminated, having our physical body being illuminated. Many of the people that I've worked with, they start to have these spontaneous, what I would see as maybe energetic orgasms, feeling of pleasure just bursting through the body. What are some other experiences? Allowing ourselves to be joyful, I think, is just a big one. And all of these are signs that these channels are opening and opened through the body.
Yes. Okay. Really fascinating. And as I look even in my own life, like it seems silly, but now you're making me understand it's not silly. Like I love the baton, and I have a baton, and I play with the baton, and it's just so fun. I love
Yes.
it so much. And that's what this is. So, for the mental aspect of like, ooh, ecstatic, we have to somehow separate it from the 3D sexual stuff, because this is a different level. Although it feels in our body like a sexual energy, it's ecstasy of just pure joy. And I love how you described it, that you're glowing, that your voice has changed. So it's almost like it's an awakening, and it's an awakening in the body. And as you awaken to it, your voice will carry codes now that affect other people. This is what we should all be striving for, right? We should all want this.
Yes.
And so you've got a course that you're teaching to help people do this. Tell us a little bit about what's going to happen in this, because I think we all want this. It's joy.
Yes. And as I mentioned before, the sixth dimension is pure play. The sixth dimension is pure play. And so all of the things that feel joyful and fun, and this energy that moves through us, and us being in our God selves, that is what we are moving into. And again, I'll just mention, if it is a desire, if you're curious about it, it's for you, then you're ready on some level to begin moving into those realms. So that's your invitation. So my course is called Ecstasy. It is a 6-week course, and each unit we go through, it's live and pre-recorded. So there's material that you can watch. And then also each week I go through each of these live, so that there's a question and answer available for people. And we start with pleasure, and then we move into uncovering shame. And throughout the course, I really, and then we build on that. How do we open these channels? How do we then move through the world with these channels open? How do we become our new selves? Powerful activations. I've offered this once. I'm currently offering it, and then I'll be opening it again for your listeners. And each time, these activations that people are experiencing are really, really powerful. It is a combination of me teaching, concepts, me offering practices that you can do that have been delivered to me through channeling. So different practices that open and awaken the ecstatic body. And then I do light code activations with the people who are a part of it. So it's threefold. It's me on an energetic level delivering, because that's such a succinct way, right, of creating these things. And then also the empowerment of having the teachings for yourselves and having the practices for yourselves that you can continue after the course to continue to awaken and be illuminated. So that is Ecstasy. It is open to all genders, all walks of life. This is something that I feel a lot of joy in knowing that people feel very welcome in this space. It is I have a lot of integrity and honor around being able to hold this space, because people are going through feelings of their sexuality coming up, and that's not always comfortable for people. So I do hold a very specific container around that, allowing people to have those experiences and walk them through it.
And it seems as if going through this process, there would be change in one's life. There has to be change in one's life. Have you seen clients that, I don't want to say walk away from marriages, but maybe relationships have to change and shift? Has there been any witness of you seeing things like that?
Huge changes. And I don't want to scare anybody off,
Right.
because we don't know what we don't know, right? So for some people, and I'll just give you examples of real experiences that people who've taken this course have had. The biggest one, and this is a really positive one, was and she talked about it publicly on Facebook. She said, and I'll just still leave her name out, but she was at the place where she said, if something didn't change, I was just ready to die, right? She was at that level. And she took this course and things started coming back in. She said it felt like things were slamming into her body, all of these different parts of herself. And where she is now, she is making money. She wasn't making money before. She is smiling. I've actually not seen her smile. She's smiling with a joy. She's very comfortable in her gifts, right? So we don't necessarily know. Another person, let me think, another person in my course as a yoga teacher. And she went through it, and she had all these very physical activations move through her, and some changes in the way that she's navigating all of her relationships, not just romantic but life relationships, right? And this is several students now that I'm speaking of, lots of changes in the way that they relate to everyone around them. And that, again, that's part of, I want to say it's unit 5. All of these shifts have started it's unit 6. All of these shifts have begun taking place. And then we take an assessment. Where are we now with the people who are around us? And what do we want to do? And it's coming from, this is why I don't want it to scare anybody off, because yes, even if your relationships change, even if that means I leave this relationship because I'm so illuminated, it doesn't feel, when you make that decision, the way it might feel now. You're in a place of empowerment at the end of our work together, at the completion of this course. You're in a place of empowerment where you understand yourself, and your decisions are being made from that place. And for some people, who knows, it might mean diving back into it. Oh, there's this whole realm that I haven't discovered. It could mean I'm going to go live in Madagascar now, right? It could mean so many different things, but it's just like everything else, it's being illuminated from within. It's coming from a place of empowerment. Now we understand, okay, I feel so good. I'm being led by what feels good now. And what feels good is to change this circumstance, to change this job, to show up in a new way, to leave this relationship or join this one, right? We are just in a place of deeper truth with ourselves.
That is empowerment, truly it is empowerment as
Yeah.
we strip away those old programs that blocked this energy. It
Yes.
really feels so wonderful. I know many people are looking forward to this, moving
Yes.
through this, and you're a beautiful facilitator to assist in this way. And your course sounds wonderful. I want to say that the information for that is right here on this webpage, and we invite everyone to check it out and sign up. There's a 2 payment plan, as that makes it easier for people, because we want people to join in and illuminate our world in this way.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, is there a light code activation, a little sampling, or maybe a practice that comes to mind for everyone that maybe we could get a taste of?
Yes, we'll do a brief one. I'll guide everyone through this. Super, super brief. And we, at the beginning of every class during Ecstasy, I guide through a brief illumination in addition to the others. So I'll give you an example here. Close your eyes and let your conscious awareness drop into your body and drop down into the heart. Take a deep breath into the heart space. And allow your heart space to receive in each breath. Receive the activations that are streaming into you now. Continue breathing deep breaths and allow your conscious awareness to be in that center point of your heart space. In this place of allowing more of yourself to stream through. It is safe. You are safe and whole. One more deep breath. And allow your hands to move in front of your heart space. You may place your hands on your heart space and you may form a mudra with your hands. If you're looking for a mudra, you can form a diamond shape with your fingers and have that be about 5 inches in front of your heart space. Receive, receive, receive. And deep breath on the exhale, blinking your eyes open. Feeling your joy. Allowing yourselves to be happy and joyful today. That is your authentic nature.
That right there has lit our light body.
Mm.
And this explains what that is. Our joy. Wow, we are all lit up. We are
Mm.
all lit up. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Lord.
so now the work begins even deeper, where even for those who may not be aware of this, or maybe those who have a little inkling of it, this is our journey now to move forward. I can see how the world changes with this. I can see the creativity. I can see new collaboration with people, and the world feels different. The world feels new with this.
Yes. So good. Go have
Yay,
some peas today.
we've done it. It's very interesting because, again, I'm going to go back to last year of 2022. I really did sense that awakening. And so now, as we're here moving to this newness, we have action to take. We know where to put it. We know more about what the work needs to be done. And again, I want to go back to that shadow work that you mentioned. We can get stymied in this process if we're not aware of the shadow that's coming up. Again, we could doubt ourselves or doubt this entire process, judge ourselves harshly. Again, in the past, I've called it our mind is at war with our heart. And so really beautiful, as this is the way forward for so many people who are ready for it. And even if they're not ready for it, wow. So it's for all beginners. It's for all beginners, for even those who have prepared energetically.
Yes.
And wow.
Yeah. And I will say that if you are if you're in deep struggle, I'm also available for that. I
Yeah.
talk a lot about people who are in these beautiful places. If it's hard right now, reach out. Reach out. I do understand that. You're
Yeah.
meant for greatness. Regardless of where you are now, you are meant for the absolute fullness of all of this. And you can make a quantum leap, right? It's step by step.
You can make a quantum leap. Yes. And one thing that we've heard from other healers working with clients is a lot of trauma coming up to be released, particularly sexual trauma.
Mhm.
And isn't that interesting? This is exactly what we're talking about. And at the beginning of last year, 2022, I looked around and it felt like all the rules had changed. So
Mhm.
our introduction course today helps me understand what is going on. If these new energetics are coming in, the new feminine energies are coming to support every human, then that's going to dismantle those old structures, societal belief systems, programs, things in the church. And so as we help ourselves, we're helping everyone. Do you want to add anything about this, the newness that we're navigating through? Because it really is just our joy.
Yes. You know what's coming through me right now that I have to mention? It's going to be easier than we think it is.
Yeah.
It's going to be easier to jump into that pleasure, to jump into that joy, to move through these stuck points, even the trauma. That the feminine energy that's coming in right now is balancing. We've been out of balance. We've just been so out of balance. It feels so good to be who we really are. It feels so good to be who we really are. And that as the motivation, instead of being motivated by pain, being motivated by knowing that we're moving into the truth of who we are. And it's just a big sigh of relief. I get to be me now. This feels more right than anything. And we're moving into that. It is going to be easier than we think.
Hallelujah. Happy activating, everyone. We are really looking forward to seeing you in this course. We're looking forward to you and your shift after 6 weeks in this course. It will be changed. Someone's life will be totally changed. And even after the 6 weeks, those are tools and activations that carry on so much more, that as things evolve in our individual lives, those skills are still there, making it easier and helping us accelerate through any future shadow that comes up.
Yes.
So thank you, Allison, Holley, for this. As we wrap up, I want to give you a moment to share any final thoughts.
Oh, I'd love to share with your listeners. I'm going on a book tour this year. I'll be in the West Coast areas all the
Wow.
way through, so the western half of the US and Mexico in the spring. So March and April. And then later on this fall, I'll be in the East Coast. And so keep an eye out. My book is Ecstatic Playground, and I'd love to see you on the road. So,
Wow. Congratulations. That is beautiful.
you.
All right. And thank you everyone for listening. Your light is here, ready to be shined so brightly. And we hope that you find this very valuable on your journey. Thank you, Allison. And thank you, everyone. Namaste.
Thank you.